All right, guys, welcome to the Thursday Q&A session for the Showdown. This is our last series in Act 2, which is Law and Order, algorithms, and campaign structure. And we're headed into optimization next week for the next 4 weeks. Super exciting content, lots of good resources coming up for that session. So today we're going to kind of wrap this up and answer all questions related to classes 1 through 8. Melissa, are you out there?
I am. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. Yes, so let's get started.
Okay, great. First question here is from Fanar. So, hey, Fanar, welcome to class again. Always love seeing familiar names on the chat.
Yes.
It says, let's see here. If you type a C keyword in Helium 10, it generates several related keywords. Is it okay to assume that the C keyword is a browse keyword? And then when you add the modifier, it becomes a shop keyword.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the way it would work for sure. General seed keywords would go in browse. And just remember with Amazon, a lot of people start at the higher place in the funnel, but your best converting keywords to build sales history and also manage costs are going to be in the shop funnel when you modify those keywords with your product's specific features and benefits.
Okay, and I want to clarify that just a verbal clarification. It's seed, SEED. A seed keyword is what Cherie refers to, not a C keyword like the letter C. So just making sure we're all on the same page so there's no confusion.
Yeah, the seed is, think about it like a seed you would plant in a garden. It's a seed that will grow other keywords. So when you're thinking about keyword hierarchy, the seed keyword is like the same phrase or word that's included across all keywords in that category search. So for example, if we're talking about jeans, jeans would be a good seed keyword. Way too general to advertise on, but just about any keyword that we do get scale on is going to include that main seed jeans in the variations.
Awesome. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that we had clarification for that so there was no confusion. Prex got the next question here. He says, if I sell ground coffee and the auto campaign search term report shows the word coffee has a very high ACOS, around 80%, would you negative exact the word coffee in an auto campaign, or how will you stop the word coffee from bleeding your budget?
Okay, in an auto campaign, that's an amazing test. And it can go, it's like any other test because we can't really get inside the algorithm's mind. One, it's a computer, and two, it's not transparent. So there's two things I would test there. So the first thing to do is look at your current impressions on that auto campaign, just kind of get a ballpark of where your impressions, your ad views are, because of course impressions is the key metric with auto if it's at least break even. Now from there, you can add coffee as a negative phrase match, and you can definitely add other category keywords because of course when you're bidding on, like, say, ground coffee, you want to show up in search. That's your top of search keyword, so you're not trying to get coffee exposure as much as competitor exposure. Sometimes that will work, but sometimes when you add that category negative, it will filter the traffic too much. Impressions will go down, and then when impressions go down, you lack the visibility to drive sales conversions, right? So again, think about auto as a repetitive strategy. And the goal is to blanket the whole category so that you're showing up on as many pages as possible that are relevant. So the more visibility you get, the higher the ads are going to convert and the more leadership you establish. So, sometimes those category keywords like coffee can actually filter your traffic too much, but other times it can actually do wonders to reduce costs. Every product and category is different, but I would test it, but just be sure you monitor impressions. And then you may also be prepared to increase your bid slightly, because when you remove that keyword, now you'll want to be more aggressive on the rest of the campaign because there's no risk of that ACOS running crazy. So I would also, if I put the negative on coffee, I would also increase the bid quite a little bit, a few different times, to make sure I'm still ranking.
All right, let's see here. Is the keyword best, like best Levi jeans, okay to use in an ad group keyword, but not in the product listing?
Yeah, it's not going to do, you can use it as a keyword. You're going to find it in your search term reports. People on Amazon, because of the review system and the bestseller categories, they put the word best in front of about every product search. I'm not like in love with that keyword, but you definitely can add it as a search term and it will convert to sales. But yeah, it does not go into your back end search terms or your product listing.
Okay, great. When you create an ad group, like a buy ad group, that you bid at the keyword level, and these keywords may have different bids, what do you do with the ad group setting default bid, which shows automatically? For example, the ad buy group, so the ad group buy keyword bid is $2, and the keyword bid is $2.50. But the ad group setting is showing a default of 75 cents.
Normally you're gonna it's gonna default to your keyword level bid. So I would set, your ad group bid. I would probably set it, even if you can, a little bit higher. Again, the interface is different right now. So, I mean, if you have to set an ad group level bid, I would set it slightly higher, not lots, but slightly higher than your highest keyword level bid. But most of the time, you're also trying to cut costs in the buy group, right? This is a buy group, Melissa.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so you could actually set it a little bit below, probably not as low as 75 cents. That might filter traffic too much in case it defaults to it. So, set it just slightly below, somewhere in the range of your average CPC bid in that group. And then more importantly, though, 99% of the time, your keyword level bid is where where they're going to use. I mean, the algorithm is going to pull the keyword level bid. So the ad group one is fairly irrelevant, but if you want to remove any margin for error, I would set it in the same ballpark of your average CPC bids on the keyword level.
All right. So Hatsfield is setting up his shop campaign. So it says, I'm setting up my shop campaign. I have 21 keywords mined from the search terms that have sales. Do I set up each keyword in as broad and as phrase?
You want to use them. You want to be thinking, when you think about keyword match types, that's why we trained on it. Keyword match types there's not like a given match type for everything. You want to be thinking about how that keyword would be used, right? So is that keyword something that's going to match up on broad? You're always going to test it as broad. But is it also kind of short enough? Like, say I had jeans for women, that would be a broad match. But it's so detailed with the stop word for in it, jeans for women. It's unlikely I'm going to get tons of phrase exposure. Plus phrases of all the keywords the most risky. So I would only run phrases when it was something like skinny jeans, like 2 words that are guaranteed to get more traffic as phrase. So phrases are just exactly as the match type implies. It's a keyword phrase. Those 2 words are going to show up together. So whenever you see a couple of keywords that most likely get a tremendous amount of searches with words before and after, and you can also see it in the broad match count in any good keyword analysis tool, but you want to use those instinctively. If it's a longer keyword, there's no reason to put phrase on it. You really want to leverage phrase match when there's a ton of variation in the way people search, but you want those 2 words in sequence. So yeah, you can make that decision as you go. I certainly wouldn't do both by default. If I had to do one match type by default, I would be putting it in as broad match. That's going to be your safest bet, and I would be kind of peppering in a few phrase matches until I had a lot of data that this keyword converted to high sales, and then I'm going to try and test it as phrase because I've got good ACOS metrics. I have good performance metrics across lots of clicks, lots of orders, so I can make that small bet to see what phrase will do. But I normally wouldn't be like coming out the gate with everything at broad and phrase. I would come out the gate on a test at broad. Now, my second note on this, and again, we're working on process maps. We have a list of them. But my second note on this, and I would go back to your campaign structure preview workbook. So there's a guide that went with the second preview to this course that shows you a good campaign structure. And I think when you're thinking about structure, if you bring it from your search term reports, proven to convert to say 2 or 3 more orders, then you're going to put that into a group called scale where you bid fairly aggressive. So shop is more for keywords that you're just trying to learn how people shop, right? It's more of a test ad group where you're trying to say, okay, people shop for this. What do they use? Do they look for denim? Do they look for women's? Do they look for skinny? Do they look for distressed? Like, I'm testing different variations that describe my features and benefits in shop, but I don't have any data on those. So if I have data on a keyword, 2+ orders, 3+ orders, 5+ orders, any amount of orders that's consistent and shows some really strong data or trends, Then I'm going to put those in scale. And that's because I want that ad group to get incredible sales history and performance. And so I use it only for keywords that have proven to convert. So that's going to be the only differentiator there. And if it's a search term, you're going to want to put it into scale as exact match because you know it converts exactly as you saw it within your keyword report.
All right, Robert's got the next question here, and it says, if your scale bid is below a keyword Amazon max bid range, but you're coming up number 1 for that keyword, do you bother changing the bid?
No, you've got it. You've totally nailed it. Whatever you can get away with on that bid, keep it there, because we talk about that whole concept of telegraphing high bids. If you go and kind of put these bids at like an uncapped crazy number just to kind of shorten the curve of testing and tracking rank, what happens is now the CPC range in the Amazon keyword suggestion is going to show your new high CPC as a bid, right? It's going to show it as a range. So you don't want to telegraph out to your competitors to increase their bids. So I would suggest keeping that bid as low as possible just to rank. But I do suggest increasing the bid until you rank to get that good sales velocity and win that spot. So yeah, it sounds like you've done a great job, and I would absolutely not increase that bid.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, sheets. There we go. It says, Vanor is asking, when I look at the auto campaign and add an ASIN that is supposed to be a competitor through Helium 10, I get one of my own different and not related ASINs to the one that I'm advertising. What is the reason for this? Is it because I had too many ASINs in one campaign, but thanks to you, that's changing?
Okay, this is a good question. So tell me one more time. Are you talking about an auto campaign or a placement targeted campaign? Can you clarify for us?
Yeah, we'll have Fanor clarify that. He states our auto right here. So it says, when I look at the auto campaign and I add an ASIN that is supposed to be a competitor through Helium 10, I get one of my own different and not related ASINs than the one that is advertised. What is the reason for this?
Yeah, it's not making sense because you don't put ASINs in auto campaigns. You would only put keywords as negatives in auto campaigns. So run it by me one more time.
Okay, yeah, and he's clarifying right here. It says auto campaign. He just put that in there.
You said what?
Auto campaign.
There's no ASINs in auto campaign. So where are you saying ASINs that you're advertising or ASINs? What do you mean by ASINs? Read it one more time, Alyssa.
Okay, it's I'll read it word for word, and then I think I have kind of an understanding of what he's saying.
And then go kind of slow on it so I can figure it out.
Yeah, it says, when I look at the auto campaign and add an ASIN that is supposed to be a competitor through Helium 10.
When you add an ASIN, are you adding an ASIN or are you adding keywords that represent that ASIN? In an auto campaign, you wouldn't even do that because are you adding those keywords to your manual campaign? Like, where are you adding this ASIN?
I wonder if he's adding it to Helium 10. It looks like he's running it through Helium 10.
Okay, so you're adding an ASIN into Helium 10 to analyze it in the Cerebro tool.
Mm-hmm. And it says, I get one of my own different and not related ASINs to the one that's advertised.
Where you wouldn't get additional ASINs in Cerebro.
Okay, I wonder if there's just confusion about how that tool works. I'll wait for Fanor. Let's see here. Oh, the STR report shows ASINs and some of those are mine. So he's getting these ASINs out of the auto STR report.
Okay, that's great. So in the auto STR report, yes, you're going to show up on your own product pages a million times. And that's just a brand halo effect on Amazon. And that's just going to be based on relevance. They're your products or your brand. And if it's showing up as a ASIN that's converting, it most likely is either that product of yours is in the consideration cycle, which means when someone starts to shop for this one product of yours, they look at this other product of yours. It's in consideration when they're comparing things, or it means that it's frequently bought together, or it's also viewed. It's actually an also bought with kind of maneuver. So either one of those behaviors on the shopper side is going to place you on your own product pages. And again, if it wasn't relevant, Amazon wouldn't do it. So there is some benefit to that. And I wouldn't filter out any of your own product pages on any level, regardless of options to do so. I would keep it open because, again, brand halo on Amazon is very powerful. So that's the answer now that I understand what he's doing. But can you tell me again, what was his specific question in relation to that?
Well, it says, so he's looking at the STR auto campaign and he's getting an ASIN from that that's supposed to be a competitor through Helium 10, but instead he gets one of his own different, not related ASINs to the one advertised. He wants to know what is the reason for this.
That's absolutely common. Yeah, that's totally common. In the ASINs, a lot of your own products are going to produce the most orders from brand Halo. And then you're going to also find competitors, and you're going to also find similar or frequently bought together products. All those things will show up in the ASIN tool or in the ASIN report. You're going to find all three kind of types of ASINs showing up there: frequently, your own brand, and then direct competitors.
All right, so the next question here, if an ASIN that is mine is showing up in an auto STR and is not relevant to the current campaign, he's just, Theodore's just, I think, going off of this last question. Can I add this target keyword to the ASIN that is showing in the auto STR to the manual main campaign? So example, if I sell acne products in one main campaign, and the ASIN that shows up in the auto STR is for pigmentations and is also one of my ASINs, can I add the keyword acne pigmentations to the campaign that has the acne product? And if so, how are customers going to self-select for this acne pigmentation product found in an auto campaign?
Well, I think if it's going to be like that, it wouldn't be a keyword to bid on. So basically what Amazon is telling you, and remember with auto campaigns, every keyword you look at is going to be cheap. So if you get a conversion on a search term or keyword that's mined from your auto campaign, keep the lens on that Amazon is selling you those keywords far below market value so that they can control the placement. Essentially, they're just selling you the remnant traffic. They want to fill up every ad unit on the whole platform. And they're saying, hey, if you let us decide where we're going to show these ads, and of course we do as much as we can to get the algorithm to tip in our favor, but we're going to give this to you really cheap. So it's cheap traffic. And so when you go to try to get those keywords into your manual campaigns, if they are not highly relevant, they're going to cost you twice that, first of all. So depending on where it's at near your target A cost, probably not. Now, if you see that keyword related to another one of your products and it actually relates like to a pigmentation product, I would add it there, within your brand stuff and maybe as a keyword to test in the shop group. But I would not take verbatim, like just because something showed up in the auto STR that sounds, it doesn't. The biggest filter for auto keywords is it highly relevant? Because as soon as you move it over to your scale group, it's going to cost you twice the money, sometimes 3 times the money, and it's going to convert differently, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you're very frugal and very analytical when you pick those search terms from the auto report, because they really are wildcard search terms. And a lot of the time you're getting them for so cheap, it's not going to translate well to manual.
All right, Carolina's got the next question here. It says, I tweaked my listing and one of the keywords I re-enabled is converting better. Do I re-enable all of the rest and start over, or one at a time to avoid unnecessary spending?
I would re-enable them in order of volume, in order of A cost, in order of sales, right? So whatever's getting the most volume view-wise, whatever's converting to the best amount of orders or highest amount of orders at a good closest to your target A cost. And I would absolutely kind of undo those and re-enable them and kind of test incrementally. And then, yeah, there's no reason to rush though, because it's real money. And the first goal to making money, the first rule of making money is to not lose it. So yeah, go incrementally, but keep going. It's awesome that you've had improvements. Way to go on split testing and improving your listing, because it's either a cost issue or a conversion issue. There can be nothing else creating the obstacle in advertising.
All right. Julie has the next question here. She says it's a review question. I just entered phase 2. For my single keyword ad groups, it's one keyword with both broad and phrase. So the ad group technically has 2 keywords set to 2 different match types, correct?
Okay, slow it down one more time.
Yep. Okay, so she just entered phase 2.
And I think on these, when you have multiple things, you're going to have, I think we need them slower, only because I can't take that information that fast.
Oh, okay. So she says for her single keyword ad groups, is it one keyword with both broad and phrase match types? So technically the ad group has 2 keywords with 2 different match types. Is she understanding that correctly?
No, it's two separate ad groups because what you're trying to do is what I know out of the mouth of babes is the Amazon algorithm recognizes keyword match types as unique keywords. So for some unknown reason, when you put multiple high volume, not all match types, but high volume keywords in one group, what'll happen with that is sometimes the algorithm, a lot of the time, will take the winners. So say you put exact, broad, and phrase in one group. Sometimes the algorithm with a high volume that has a lot of variation will say, oh, okay, it'll just take one. So when you separate it into its own broad ad group and its own phrase ad group, and I would also suggest you go download the second study guide on the preview session for campaign structure. It shows it exactly in there for Red Bandana. I would definitely go ahead and you separate one single ad group, one single keyword. So your broad keyword is in your broad ad group, and then your phrase keyword is in your phrased ad group. So you have two ad groups, and then one of those is probably going to do exceptionally well. One of them may have too high of an ACoS, but regardless, you test both, and then sometimes you hit a gold mine, and it will scale in both variations. So that's the way to do that. So two ad groups, not one. One keyword per ad group. That's probably the best rule of thumb, is that the way you name the ad group matches the match type, and you only have one keyword per single keyword ad group, and it has a lot of good impressions and clicks and sales.
All right, Rob has the next question here. With a seed keyword, can you clarify whether to use singular and plural as two separate keywords?
Okay, it depends on how the data's come back in your search term report. There's certainly no benefit to doing both to test. There's no benefit because you can kind of cannibalize each other. So what I always do is go to the keyword tool like Helium 10, get your search volume, go ahead and take that main seed through, and then determine, are there more searches on single or plural, right? Do people search for beard oil, or do they search for beard oils? If they search for beard oil more frequently than they do the oils plural, I'm going to take and I'm going to bid on the keyword beard oil. Now, again, since I'm just testing it, I'm going to test it as broad. So when I test it as broad, I'm going to pick up all sorts of simple variations, and even your exact match will pick up subtle variations like plural and kind of different kind of things that are very similar. So in my experience, I've never had any trouble with Amazon delivering the plural variations very consistently. But sometimes if I see like a plural variation continue to come through as a new search term, based on that, I will add it into my campaign as an exact match additionally to the original seed. So yeah, so it has to show up in my search term report all the time. It has to be fairly high volume to do it. But I definitely don't test it both ways. I pick the highest volume variation so I can make sure I get the most traffic on the keyword.
All right. Julie's got the next question here. It says, both buy group and scale group are exact matched, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then she says, in a month when mine, let's see.
Okay.
In a month, what?
So you're both, anytime you're taking a search term and you're putting it in buy or scale, it goes as exact match. But when you're moving full keywords over to buy, you use it in the match type it came in through. So if you have a keyword coming in as broad match in your report that is driving this bad ACoS, then you would move it in its exact match type to the buy group. So it's kind of a combination. For that mining, you have to look at both your search terms and your keywords. And you certainly don't want to look at one and neglect the other, but you do want to be looking at both. So if it's a keyword across the board performing poorly, or that 80-20 principle where 80% of the time it's good or bad, you want to go ahead and move the keyword itself in the original match type to buy. Now, if it's a search term, it's always exact.
Okay, and then she says, in a month when I mine this new phase 2 setup, I'll pull search terms from my single keyword ad groups as well as scale and buy to add to scale and buy as exact.
Yes, especially to add to scale. You only add stuff to buy when it has a terrible cost, when it's no longer profitable for you to advertise on that keyword. That's when you make it in the lower priced ad group. So you put everything in scale as exact match that's producing at your good target ACoS. Everything from all ad groups goes straight into scale where you have the highest bid and you're really pushing for that visibility.
Okay, let's see here. Bamart has the next question here. Most bestsellers in my category come from low-cost Chinese manufacturers. Even though the photos of these best-selling products may have a similar look, my products are higher quality and a higher price point. Would you still use these bestsellers as comparisons to my product to get visibility for my product?
Yes, because the keywords those products use are incredibly relevant. Like, it doesn't really matter in terms of that. That's a very unique thing to identify, that you have these like low cost, low quality competitors. So you'll have to beat them on reviews, right? Because the only way a shopper is going to know that your product is better, I would focus all of your energy on reviews. I would focus every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that you can on those reviews, because that's going to be the only way a shopper will recognize that quality or price differentiation, is having exceptional reviews that show that shopper that this is a much higher quality product. And if they go to those Chinese pages and the product is lower quality, with which will almost 90% of the time have lower reviews. Now, if the shopper isn't recognizing the quality issue, you need to be looking at that in the review kind of cycle, right? So look at these competitor reviews and make sure that the shopper does indeed notice it's lower quality, because then it's a win. Because you notice, it's not really important until the shopper notices. But when the shopper is noticing that, normally 90% of the time they're going to post pretty cruddy reviews on Amazon, and this all the time. And so with that, your competitive advantage there and necessity to make your page convert at a higher price is to make sure that your reviews really kind of push that forward. And then the next thing, though, push the sale forward for you. And then the other thing that when you're talking about comparison, though, you're just using those competitors as a test bed for relevance and keyword selection, right? You're taking the products that already rank and already sell on Amazon, and you're using those similar products to gauge where you start your keyword list, right? Like, okay, so these are products just like mine that sell. These are products just like mine that are converting. They're in the BSR. They're converting to sales. You look at that stuff and then you say, okay, what keywords can I peel off of these pages in an analysis to make sure that I'm actually matching what's already ranking and selling, so that when the algorithm starts, it says, aha, this is one of these. So yeah, it's just giving the algorithm a signal that something it already likes, you also have one. And then if you boost up the reviews on that, then you should have a clear advantage.
All right, go on to Olga. Olga's got the next question here. When we identify our browse, shop, etc. keywords, so browse and shop and buy keywords, should we also use these somehow strategically in various places in our listing? Could this help with increased conversions?
Yes, as long as if you're picking your browse because it's just a place where it's a seed, right? It's where everyone is starting this search. Again, if I'm talking browse, I'm not talking about jeans, I'm talking about women's jeans, right? So if you pick a good browse keyword that includes the seeds of all your products, it's absolutely crucial that it's in the title, and then you can include it other places. Now, if you're picking your shop keywords because you feel like 100% they identify your product's benefits and features, then you would be sure to include those in your bullets and your product descriptions. Absolutely. Now, here's another kind of contingent there, though. You want to get data. So, again, rather than rushing out the gate and making product listing changes, because the last thing you want to do is add keywords that don't convert to sales, because in sales history, it doesn't work for you so well. So my first step in that would be to take those shop keywords, test them with advertising, determine that yes, they do indeed convert to sales. Then I would add them without question into my bullets and my product description, everything above the fold. So when people start to search on those, there's keyword relevance in the listing. Absolutely. And I'm going to assume those keywords are in your title, but if they're not, they should be. So if this is a product that is just gaining rank and gaining traction, I would add it to the title as well. And if it were a product that was already ranked, I would add it into the product description and the bullets. I would add it to the back end search terms, but I would only make that decision or that step after I had data in the search term report that it converted to sales.
All right. Dreamfish has the next question here.
Let's go talk about Dreamfish's questions, because sometimes they're fairly long. Is it a long one or is it a short one?
It's a medium question.
Is it something you can ask in a single question?
Dreamfish wants you to clarify how to take action on something.
Yeah, if it's just I'm going to answer his question. I just want to know how we should segment it down, or how he can feed
Well,
it.
this might be, you might be able to just answer this by providing a resource or telling them where the resource is. I think that's what's gonna, it looks like a step-by-step question, like how do you do this and then this and then this?
Okay, step by step, we won't be able to do. So Dreamfish, please well, maybe we could just do them one at a time. Melissa, you could try to do it slow, but when we get into questions that have multiple questions, it's very challenging to get them actually nailed in an answer. But let's see what we get. So just go very slow on it.
Okay, it says, can you clarify the order in which you analyze and take action each week?
Okay,
for example.
Hold on, analyze and take action. Okay, go ahead.
For each week. For example, do you use the STR first? Or do you go into the campaign manager first and turn things off, you know, based on the 10 clicks with 0 orders, etc.?
Well, go back. I got to campaign manager one more time.
Oh. Or do you use the STR first, or are you going straight into the campaign manager first?
Okay, let's answer that one. Okay, so when I'm analyzing and taking action, first of all, weekly, I don't do anything with the STR weekly. I only do my STRs once a month, and I consider it a deep dive. And then I go extra hard once a quarter with an even deeper dive. So my monthly dive is done in the STR, not my weekly. My weekly, I am only going into the campaign manager and I am pausing keywords that are not relevant. They're getting clicks and they're not converting to sales, or their ACOS is in the crazyville, or their ACOS is, you know, far above the targets I set for you guys, anything above my threshold that's not, you know, like within 5 or 10% that I could fix. So if I have a crazy ACOS, it's gone. If I have a crazy cost or CPC, it's gone. If it's got 0 orders and clicks, it's gone, right? You can be as conservative or as lenient as you want, but if you're watching your budget, be very conservative. We pause keywords 2 times a week. If I've launched a competitive campaign or something that's, you know, kind of struggling with cost, then I'm going to look at it 3 times a week in the campaign manager. And I'm going to look at a sort. I'm going to look at a sort that is, okay, what were the last 30 days? Minus a 5-day window, right? So if I'm looking at a campaign today, I'm going back to September 15th. So I'd be looking August 15th to September 15th. If you analyze data on any less than 30 days, it's not accurate and it's not enough of a window for you to really determine what's happening unless you've got 0 sales and unless you have mega crazy ACOS. Otherwise, you need to give this thing a little bit of time so you can see what really happens with rank and with sales history, because those things impact your cost. So I do it campaign manager, crazy, you know, stuff that I'm really testing that's going to be aggressive. I do it 3 times a week. If I've already got a campaign optimized and I've just added some new search terms, I do it twice a week. Okay, so that's in the campaign manager every single week. It doesn't take a long amount of time. It's super great. It's going to keep your costs where they need to be. Now I go once a month and I do a deep dive. In the deep dive, I pull an STR. I organize the STR. If you guys get into your members resources, you can go to STR. We have an STR format sheet, which shows you exactly how I sort and organize the STR. And then we have a new STR analysis sheet that shows you exactly how I use my column headers to make decisions. So those are both available. One of them is new, so you want to probably grab it, the STR analysis. So from there, I go ahead and I analyze the STR. And we have 2 more STR guides because I also do a lot of stuff with moving, and then I do a lot of stuff with pausing and reducing bids. So we're going to get into that in 2 separate sections so we don't confuse you guys or overload you. But the new analysis one is up. It's in your members resources. It'll help a lot. So the STR is crucial to the whole strategy because, as you guys know, we move and structure our campaigns based on this data. We optimize everything based on the sales data. So that's going to be the first. That's going to be the answer to those 2. So now, Melissa, go ahead and load some more on.
Okay, and the end of that was, I know you mentioned you would give us a PDF about this, but they just wanted you to explain so they could get started. So follow-up questions for this. Okay, so analyzing the STR is a separate task than the weekly pausing and optimizing, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Because analyzing the STR is a deep dive. And I kind of have 3 phases. So put this in your notebook, guys, because we're doing the process maps, but put it in your notebook. For me, I have 3 phases. And again, I do this professionally, like seriously, like the lights aren't on if I don't do a good job at this. So, and I mean, 15 years of it. So I've been able to do this for 15 years successfully. So when I do this, I have 3, and I have to manage my time. Like I know you guys are concerned with time, but I have multiple clients and big accounts. So I do campaign manager 3 times a week. I'm looking at everything. From there, I do deep dive once a month with reports, right? STR is my main report. Dreamfish, I know you have a big account, so I also run a bulk download, and we're creating a separate guide for that. It's not necessary. Most decisions can be made from the STR, but if you have like, an unusual amount of keywords, the keyword report will help too, which is from the bulk download. And we'll show that in reporting, which starts next week. But I do STR is my main thing. If I just go through the STR, I can make all my decisions, at least enough good decisions to keep that 80-20 balance and keep scaling. So I do that once a month. Now, every single quarter, like right now, we're preparing for Q4, right? I had to stutter even to get one that out because it's massive. So we're preparing for Q4, which I'm so glad you guys are coming right into the next 4 weeks, because this is going to be the Q4 game changer for you guys. So we're preparing for Q4. So with that one, I do an even deeper dive. I'm looking at everything in the reports. I'm looking at everything across the Campaign Manager lifetime, right? I'm looking at everything for a quarterly analysis. So you're doing the same steps. It's just going to be the amount of depth that you do. And it's not because there's no benefit to doing it more frequently. And trust me, I've tested, right? If you do things more frequently, then you don't allow enough data to accrue to make good decisions, right? So, doing things more aggressively less than 30 days, it's not necessary. If you manage your campaign manager every week, then you're making sure that no keywords bleed your budget. You're killing the stuff that's not relevant or converting. You're managing your costs very well by going in and plugging those keywords consistently. Now, when you want to make big decisions on moving stuff, scaling stuff, reducing stuff, those are big decisions, and you need 30 days worth of data to get something conclusive. And then when you need to go even further, always 90 days, because 30 days is still very weak compared to 90 days. And then you get into the lifetime, right? Like, what is a keyword done for me lifetime? As we're going into Q4, Campaign Manager lifetime. Go ahead and get into a particular campaign that's driven sales, hit the lifetime stats, and hit download, because all of a sudden you're going into Q4 and things that have performed for you lifetime are things you really need now. So you're going to have to kind of retweak. So again, I do all 3 phases, but the one that you just have to get golden is that 30-day deep dive on the STR, and then those like weekly pause sessions to reduce waste.
Okay, and then the last follow-up question with that is, do you move keywords with high ACoS from scale or shop to the buy group once a week or twice a week or once a month?
No, once a month. It goes back to that data range. It's not enough data. You're making way too early decisions. You've got to give it 30 days for rank, 30 days for history, 30 days for velocity, minimum. So before I start moving stuff and getting very aggressive with CPC bidding, I'm definitely going to give it 30 days. I'm not doing any of that stuff weekly. It would, first of all, talking about 80-20, and again, I've scaled campaigns from, like 650K to 4 million with this strategy. And I'm telling you, your own labor would be so intense that you might miss the big signals that you need to recognize, like what keywords really jamming for sales, which keywords are really bleeding your ad budget. If you start trying to do this every week, 1, it's not enough data, and 2, it's going to be too labor intensive for you to be consistent. It's almost like 20 minutes at the gym is better than never going to the gym, right? So you can get the 80% of the results without overburdening yourself with those reports, because again, you're not getting any more data. You're not making better decisions. You kind of have to learn with advertising to kind of let things ride out. It's a bit, because it's a market, kind of like your Amazon business, there's that thing of letting it ride out, right? You got to kind of ride the wave of the buyers, ride the wave of the algorithm, ride the wave. So if you get too, kind of anal in there and start really making these granular decisions, you're going to cost yourself sales. That's the first thing you're going to cost. You're going to cost yourself sales, and you're going to burn yourself out.
Okay, Lure VIP has the next question here. Lure VIP says, I can't quite wrap my head around phrase. In my mind, if you have a stop word, it's more specific, so likely to be a phrase like skinny jeans for women, bootcut jeans for women. The order of the words with for in the keyword would be more likely to stay in that order. What's the best way to get my head around this?
If they're going to stay in that order, hit it as broad. You don't even have to get your head around it. Set stuff as broad and then see how it comes through in the search term report. I guarantee you, if it's 2 words, If it's 2 words, it's almost always going to have some phrase matches. But every keyword is going to have broad match, and every keyword is going to get some exact match. So if you just want to stay with broad and exact till you do get your head around this, you're going to be fine. But phrase match is going to be normally 2 words, nothing else included, and it's going to be something like skinny jeans, or even more important, jeans skinny. Like, when's the last time someone came to a search engine and put in jeans skinny? They may have put in skinny jeans, but probably not jeans skinny. They probably put a word before that to make it contextual. So just look at it. But 2 words is a great kind of, you need like a benchmark. Don't even get your head around it. If it's 2 words, it'll probably get some phrase action. But you're going to pick up a ton of volume on broad. And then from there, you'll scale it to phrase, right? So, you can always get your data on broad. It's going to bring you all the searches. You'll definitely get your data on exact, but no discovery. So phrase is a great discovery tool, but it's only really essential after you started, kind of ramping up the traffic, and broad match will do that for you.
And then Dreamfish just has this follow-up question here. So what exact tasks are you doing 3 times a week? Are you only pausing 10 clicks with 0 sales and ACoS over 75%?
Yeah. And if I'm on a place with my client where I look at it and I say, boy, I'm trying to be frugal, right? Like, keywords are getting out of control. We're coming into prime or holiday. If something looks like unusually, it's been looking over 30 days, like it's not trending in the right way in my reports, I may pause a keyword at 60% or 50% or 40%, but normally I'm going to let it get a little over my target ACoS. Let's just say 5 to 10 points above your target. So let's say your target ACoS is 25%. You can go to 30. You can go to 35 as long as it's, not crazy. I'd say anything over 35, if your target is 25, would be crazy. So you might get into 45. Now, if your target was 35, anything over 50 would be borderline. And yes, for sure, Dreamfish, anything over 75% ACoS, 100% ACoS is straight crazy land, and it needs to be paused.
Okay, Pret has the next question here, and it looks like it's got a couple of details, so I'll read slow.
Great.
I have many different ASINs using the same keywords. It makes sense to use headline ads and send people to my storefront. Would you show the same visual ad layout, the same 3 products in all the ads, in different headline ad campaigns to create familiarity? Or would you showcase other products also in the different campaigns?
Showcase your very best sellers. Get into your business report, get into it, look at it at 90 days, look at it for the last year, look at it for 30 days, no matter how much data you have. Get into your business report, sort your sales highest to lowest by parent, by child and parent ASIN. Start to look at those numbers, and child ASIN, especially for advertising. But go ahead and decide which of those child ASINs. Of course, you want to make sure you get some variations. We're talking like your acne example. So, I'm thinking about the product, so I should clarify it for the class. So he's saying, okay, so he does like acne, and he's going to bring people to his cleanser, his toner, and his scrub all on the same product store page. So by doing that, you need to go look at what is the best-selling variation of your toner, your scrub, and your toner, your scrub, and your wash. And then from there, you could go even further, like, okay, of all these different variations, what's most popular? Is it the toner and the scrub and a mask, or is it the toner, the scrub, and a wash? Like, go ahead and look for your best sellers, and that's always what you feature in the banner, for sure. There's no benefit to like putting other stuff up there, because the best sellers will be the one that click best for you, convert best for you, and then you win that history with the algorithm, because you need to win it to reduce your cost, because headline search is far more expensive than sponsored. So to win those banners consistently and bring them to the store and let them self-select, you need low CPCs, or at least moderate break-even CPCs. So you definitely want your best sellers and your best, most relevant ad copy that matches those sellers, and just make sure that it gets, you want to get good performance to lower the cost.
Okay, Kenny's got the next question here. Kenny says, in my headline search ads, I noticed my brand name keywords win rate is now much higher than before. Does this mean someone is bidding really high on my brand name keywords, and should I outbid them?
Always outbid them on your brand keywords. Don't let anyone take your brand searches under any. You're going to convert those at 5%, 10% max. I mean, really 5% is the average for a brand conversion. If it's a newer brand, you might get to the 8 or 10 range, which means people don't know the brand well enough yet. But never let someone go ahead and win on your brand keywords for even a minute.
Okay, and we've got two different questions that are follow-up from Dreamfish's questions here, so we'll get through those really fast. If you see a keyword in the shop group that the ACoS is 60% with 7 clicks and 1 sale, is that enough information to move it to the buy group, or do you need to see it have 10 clicks before you take action?
You can't take action without 2 to 3 sales. Nothing's getting moved unless you have sales, right? And if it's only 1 sale, it's probably going to be fine to pause it, right? You only need to worry about moving stuff that gets significant sales volume or is hyper relevant. I think that's not enough data to make a decision.
All right. And then Hotsfield's asking...
It's enough data to make a decision to pause it. It's at 60% ACoS. It's only converted to 1 sale. It's not going to be an order killer or a category killer. Go ahead and pause it. It's definitely not too early to pause that thing, but it is way too early to start moving it around.
Yep. And then Hotsfield wants to follow up with that. When you look at it 3 times a week, how far back are you looking? Is it just 7 days, or are you going farther back than that?
Okay, you're going to go back at least 30 days, right? You can look at the last week, but that means nothing. That means nothing. You know nothing. I know nothing. I wish we did. It'd be great to know stuff faster, right? Our mind loves to solve problems, and your mind actually has a harder time letting something sit than it does to tinker with it. So your mind's natural lizard brain loves to solve problems. Like, it loves to finish sentences. It loves to tell you what to do next. It loves to kind of answer things the way you like to answer things. But unfortunately, you need to kind of bypass that lizard brain. And you need to allow this thing to sit as long as it's not bleeding your budget. If it's not wasting money, then I just can let it sit. And it takes a different kind of patience, but you definitely don't want to answer too quickly. So 7 days is a bit like the lizard brain just is like, okay, let's decide what to do with this keyword. You know what I mean? It just wants to get it cleaned out, move it, make more money, lose more money, get it gone. And that's just your lizard brain. Don't do that. So when you're looking at a keyword, give yourself 30 days, right? Give yourself a 30-day view if you can. Now, if a keyword is in crazy ACoS land or no sales land, then shut it down. There's no data more necessary than it's crazy or it's not converting. But when you're trying to look at a keyword that has significant orders or is relevant to your category or is a winning keyword, you know, you don't need 7 days. So 30 days. So if I set my date range, I would come back and say, okay, from August 15th, if I was doing this today, which I will be doing it today, like I do every day, August 15th, and that's because I have multiple big accounts. So of course I'm in the campaign managers every day across different accounts, right? Okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to say, okay, August 15th. So I'm going to say August 15th to September 15th. The reason for this is the last 5 days, there's not enough sales attribution, right? I don't really know what's happened with sales within a 5-day window on Amazon for reporting. So I'm going to say, okay, let's go back the 30 days previous to the last 5. And I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to go back August 15 to September 15. I'm going to take a look. And then if I really have a lot of orders and a lot of stakes on that keyword, I'm going to go back and look at it over 90 days. And I'm going to see what it did over 90 days. Right? And so normally I'm looking at like a 30, 90-day window. And then sometime if it's a big fish keyword, I'm looking at it lifetime. And I'm telling you, if this keyword is running, like say at my target ACoS is 25, it's running say at 30 or 35, boy, I'm not doing anything with a big order keyword. I'm talking a keyword that produces 300, 400, 500 orders, 20 orders, 30 orders, 50 orders. If the keyword produces orders, you need to wait to the deep dive. If you're only like 5 or 10% above ACoS, you need to wait till your deep dive and then make good strategic decisions. Because in Amazon, people start with this short tail search. So unfortunately, if you concede keywords that you need, there will be no sales anywhere else. So unfortunately, you don't want to make too quick of decisions on these, because with Amazon, it's not quite like Google where there's like a whole pile more of long tail keywords just waiting to happen. Normally with Amazon, like your big keywords will drive 90% or 80% of your sales. So to concede those sales is a big decision, especially for velocity and how it impacts your total growth, organic rank, sales history. You really want to look at that. And I talked a little bit about that in my analysis PDF I released today. And I think for these questions are so good, and Dreamfish, thank you for kicking them off. Can we make a list, Melissa? Can you be sure to make a note in your notepad right now to add these specific questions, like copy Dreamfish's whole sequence, and anyone that followed, put those into our process map, because there was one piece of this that I thought would be good on the process map, which is more about these. I know I covered target ACoS, but maybe I can put that into a map.
Awesome, I can do that. And then, yeah, Dreamfish just wanted you to clarify. So you didn't want Dreamfish to do anything based on those stats. You want them to wait for more data, correct?
Yeah, I would wait for more data for sure. You're not, it doesn't sound, well, no, hang on a minute. Don't move it. You can pause it if you're at 60% ACoS and you've only got one sale lifetime on that keyword. It's not a game changer.
It only has 7 clicks though. So keep in mind it only has 7 clicks.
I mean, well, what's the CPC on it? Is it above your target CPA? Is it above, how does that CPC look compared to your best performing keywords? Like, you can make some other decisions. You could wait till you hit 10. Go ahead and wait till you hit 10 and pause it. It's just 3 more clicks. But if you're looking at it, it says it's, it just, if it's one order and 7 clicks, that's not a ton of data. You can wait till you hit 10. But if you feel like the keyword's not relevant, or you feel like the keyword's not a game changer, you can always pause it. It's not going to change. I mean, the keywords you got to focus on are the ones driving the 80-20 principle, right? The 80% of sales is all you focus on, and everything else is just simply a pruning tool to keep that money on that 80%, right? It's just a money game. You're trying to put the money where the money's made. So, all that other stuff, just kill it. You know what I mean? Killer keyword, just knock it out. So you can make decisions there however you see fit. Sometimes if I've got 7 clicks and I'm trying to be conservative with my budget, I will without question look at those 2 factors I just listed. And please put this, Melissa, in the process map. I will look at what is my CPC on this. Like, we talk about this. Okay, so your click to sale ratio on average on a good keyword that drives your 80% of sales is like $2, $2.25, right? $3.25. And it is in this range. And now you've got this keyword running like $5 a click, or $4.85 a click, or $4.25 a click. That CPC is never going to work for you, right? So sometimes when the CPC is crazy, I just give it up right then, because you don't know the CPC until you test it. Actual CPC is never a given until you see it in a report. So you don't know what the cost per click is. The bid range certainly doesn't tell us on Amazon. So you won't know till you test it. But when anything has an actual CPC that's significantly higher than what I pay on my good keywords, I don't keep it around, because unless it converted like 1 in every 2 clicks, it's worthless. It's just going to run up my budget.
Okay. And then Dreamfish has a follow-up here. First follow-up is, why not move it to the buy ad group?
For 1 order, who cares? What, you're going to get half an order? I mean, like, there's nothing in buy to do. Buy is reserved for stuff that actually converts to enough sales to matter. Lowering the CPC for a half order wouldn't matter at all. No, you don't need that in buy. The stuff you need in buy is stuff that converts to sales, that you've got to try to salvage for history. If it's not relevant, if it doesn't convert to sales, no reason to keep that dead weight around.
And then, isn't the CPC directly related to ACoS? So if it's over target ACoS, then doesn't that automatically mean it's over my target CPC?
No, because CPC and conversion are what dictate ACoS. CPC and conversion. So it's not a standalone metric. It's all about what's the cost per click and how well does that keyword convert? How many clicks does it take to get a sale? So sometimes you can have a higher CPC, but if it converts every 2 clicks, going to jam. Sometimes you can have a really low conversion and an awesome CPC. It takes 20 clicks to get a sale. It's going to fail. So with that, it's CPC against conversion, which is why we put click to sale ratio in the search term report analysis, because it allows me just pulse wise to say, okay, how many clicks does it take to get a sale here? So it's a combination of CPC and conversion rate would equal ACoS. So with that, if it's got an exceptionally high CPC and it's already generated quite a few clicks, it's certainly not going to work. And if it takes too many clicks to convert, it won't matter what the CPC is, it's not going to work. So anytime there's a high CPC, most likely it's not going to work if it's crazy.
All right, I've got all of those copied over to that the doc that we have. So those are all in there in order. So you have those to reference back to. So
And then thank you so much, Melissa. And
yeah,
then
of
just
course.
know, Dreamfish, that the buy group is going to cut the traffic down significantly. As soon as you cap that CPC bid on Amazon, you're no longer in the game. It's very rare. You can sometimes salvage really high volume keywords with a lot of sales history. You put them in buy because you can salvage a percentage of that traffic, right? But you won't salvage your top positions. You won't salvage much. So I really mean that, not at all sarcastically. I mean, seriously, if you take a keyword with one sale and move it to buy, you would get 0.5 sales or 0.25, a quarter of a sale or half a sale. It just isn't even worth doing.
Okay, Shookie's got the next question here. It says, my shop ACOS is better than 2+ scale. Does this make sense? When I look at the ACOS of scale, shop, and buy, are there any benchmarks where the percentages should be?
No, all your performance benchmarks will be against your own product's conversion and cost per click because they vary from product to product. But give it to me one more time, Melissa, in case there's something I could give there.
Yep, it says that my shop ACOS is better than my 2+ scale group. Does that make sense? First of all, does that make sense?
Sure. It just means that some of those variations are converting for you at a different rate. And your scale keyword, your bid is designed for rank and break even. It's not designed for ACOS. So you'll be in, and also the keywords that convert for you in scale, the keywords that convert for you in scale are probably the best keywords in the category. So they might be a little more competitive. So yeah, there's definitely, the ACOS in scale has everything to do with scale. You're driving a lot more traffic through those keywords. You're bidding higher on those keywords. They're probably more competitive. So yeah, it's definitely highly likely that scale could have a slightly higher ACOS than shop.
Okay, and then when I look at the ACOS of scale, shop, and buy, are there any benchmarks where the percentages should be?
No. Just your target ACOS. The only benchmark you have is what is your target ACOS. I mean, if your target ACOS is 25%, then that's the benchmark. And then from there, you look at everything below and everything above, and then from there. So your target ACOS is your ACOS. The benchmark is your own. And from there, as long as it's coming in at break even, it's a win.
Right, because everybody's is going to be different, correct?
Yes.
So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to have, a cut and dry, this is this for this number and this, when everybody's targets and everybody's prices and everything are going to be different, correct?
It's not, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. But the main thing to keep in mind, like even with you, Dreamfish, is that the idea, the class is strategic because tactics are very short-lived. So there's not going to be, it's not a machine, right? There's no campaign in the world that you're just going to set it to a certain temperature and it's going to do the same thing all the time. The market will vary, competitors will vary, the algorithm will vary, all these things change daily. So it's more important that you just have, somewhat of a basic baseline for how you want to think about the decisions and keep in mind, just not being too granular and paying the closest attention to that 80% that's delivering orders and making sure that you're discovering new keywords off that 80% and mining them consistently every month, and that you're pausing keywords that are losing you money, regardless of what everything looks at. If they're losing you money, they're losing you money. So if you do those things, it's going to come out really well. And I think that, yeah, there is a lot of step-by-step that can come clear, but a lot of it is really just having deep thinking and thinking about, the whole picture when you do the analysis.
Yes, because Dreamfish is saying, and I added this to the doc as well, so we have it to reference back to. Dreamfish is saying, I really wish there was a clear document that says, if you see A, then do B. If you see X, then do Y. That way there would be a clear step-by-step guide to go through to optimize.
Yeah, I think that is important. There's a lot of that I can fill in with a process map, but then a lot of it, just remember, you'll want to be doing a lot of deep thinking. It won't ever be mechanical because you're going to need to consider these different variables, like what's the CPC and what's the conversion and how many orders is it created. You're going to always have to look at your particular stats and consider that stuff. But once you start making those decisions every month on that STR, you're going to be super seasoned at it, and it's going to get easier and better all the time.
All right, Carolina's got the next question here. Carolina says, for those of us who started in shop, when we have more sales and more of a testing budget, can we go back and start with browse to benefit from its higher traffic?
Absolutely. I consider browse and absolutely you would definitely want to launch that after you've got your shop stuff working and converting. And it's, usually for me, it's like kind of in the second or third phase that I start to test those more broad keywords after I've got some really targeted stuff. But without question, if my shop keywords are converting and I have good ACoS, that means the product is advertising well, the product page is converting well, the campaign structure is working for me, then I absolutely will activate some broader keywords to see what they'll do to get the velocity up.
All right. And then Fanor's next question is, should you add singulars and plurals to the auto campaigns as negative phrase?
You can, yeah. You could just do the single, it'll catch it, but you could do the plural too. Mm-hmm.
All right. And Rob's got a question here that's got some metrics in it, so I'll read it slow so you can get all the numbers down. Says if my main keyword is super competitive and currently converting at about 14%, but at a 75% ACoS. Top BEP is 40%. Would you keep trying to optimize it, slowly lowering the bid, or just throw it into the buy group? You'd mentioned last week something about when it was over 50%, it might not be worth it.
Yeah, I think if you're going from 40 to 75, so that's a 35-point difference. So on 35 points, you'd have to reduce everything so dramatically, incrementally, it probably wouldn't work. So yes, you'll probably take that straight to the buy group.
All right. Kenny's got the next question here. Kenny is cleaning up and restructuring his campaigns. Should I leave anything that has good sales history and good ACoS alone, or should I move them to the new campaign and ad groups?
Well, if it has good sales and ACoS, you probably want to leave it unless you're moving everything to a single product campaign and then you want to move it. So, it kind of depends on your overall structure. But if you want everything in one campaign, you'll move it. If you don't mind having a couple campaigns because you set this up this way, then you can keep it where it's at. It's just going to be a personal preference there. I personally would move stuff into one campaign just for management reasons. But if you've got significant sales, and I mean significant, it probably needs to, either be moved or, like you said, left alone.
Okay. All right. How many days is the campaign manager data behind?
You never know. I mean, sometimes it'll be really current and up to date, and sometimes it's 3 days, but I always give it 5. I give it a 5-day window just to make sure I'm looking at real data.
And I think after we've seen, when Amazon has big sale days like Prime Days or around Christmas time, it's quite a bit more delayed than, just like a normal day.
Yeah, it depends on the traffic volume and what's going on with the system, but I just like a 5-day window. I think it's the right amount of cushion to really know I'm looking at true numbers.
Okay, admin's got the next question here. If we already have history, if we already have history, but are confused and not very cost-effective campaigns already running, once we have constructed a new campaign according to your principles, do we pause the old campaigns prior to launching a new one?
Yeah, so you do want to do a phase out there. So let's cover that. So if you have campaigns with sales history, it's going to be far better to build new ad groups within the campaign with the most sales history, because that's sales history that you've paid for your product. So you've gone ahead and invested in advertising before you had a clean structure, and you've spent that money with Amazon, and it will pay off for you regarding the history itself, right? Because you're going to show that the product can sell. It sells through advertising. You have some data. The algorithm is familiar with the product. It's familiar with the keywords. So that history is very valuable. Now, from a campaign management standpoint, it's not valuable at all, because if you can't quickly make decisions in the campaigns, it's kind of messy. So the benefit to cleaning everything up is to get better scores with the algorithm over time. And then more importantly, to get your own mental stuff clear so that you can actually do great things. So with those two things in mind, you want to take the campaign shell. I call it a shell because it's just going to be a shell for the campaign that has the best history for that product, the best sales history, advertising history, and then I would build new ad groups within that shell, moving everything that converted over to the new structure, and then I would pause the old stuff, and I would go ahead and push up my bids and let it replace.
All right, let's see here. Lure VIP's got the next question. It's a little bit long, so if you want to have your pen ready, see if there's any notes in here you want to take. I don't see a lot of metrics, but just in case there's some details here. I changed to focus on my browse keyword as you advised me last week, since it was driving most of my sales.
Mhm.
I put it in its own ad group in broad and its own ad group in exact, but the ACOS is higher than it was before. I only changed it last Friday. So do I just need to give it more time? I'm worried that making too many changes too often is having a negative impact on my ACOS.
Yes, you don't want to be making too many changes too often because you're not allowing the algorithm to get any history. The algorithm needs data. It doesn't have a lizard brain. It doesn't have any kind of emotional response to anything. So the algorithm is a pure data machine, and it only looks at proven data. It only looks at the stuff it knows, and it's designed to serve up with 99% accuracy what it knows. That's what it's relied on for. So when you start making too many changes, you're not giving the algorithm any room there. So putting it into a single is a great move. What you really need to be looking at is what match type had lower costs where it was at before, and maybe that match type's not performing. Another thing that you would do is use only the match type that was performing, and then you would pay close attention to what the bid was in the browse group, and then model that. And then from there, give it enough room to ramp up. But if you feel like it's not producing in a single group, I mean, the goal of a single is it produces when it produces. It's a little gold mine. But when it's not producing, it's not a big deal to kind of pause it in the single and let it run where it was at before successfully. It's still going to get the same traffic. It's still going to get a really good, score. It's still going to build your sales and your history. There's nothing wrong with leaving it where it's already working. But I would look at the match type and I would look at the bid to see if that somehow has skewed this. And then I would totally agree with you that I would give it enough time to really see enough sales history, enough orders, enough impressions, enough clicks to see what's really happening with it.
Okay, next question here. First part of this question, there's a couple parts here. It's not super long, but just a couple parts. It says, you cannot edit a headline campaign, right?
Nope. Isn't that just silly? I'm sure it'll change, but no, you can't edit.
Okay. Should I cancel a headline campaign whose ad copy is not optimal and create a new one? Or is it a risk of deleting the sales history? The text of the ad is really bad.
Oh yeah, no problem. That's the nice thing about advertising, especially text-based ads, is they're designed for split testing. Algorithms love a split test. So it's a computer. They love to see different data. So keep that one active. This is the beauty of this. Keep that campaign completely active as it is. Like, just let it exist. Then go and take all the targeting. So all the keywords you've set in that campaign, model it exactly, right? Even if the structure may be different. If you want to just do a clear test with better copy, you go in, take the exact same keywords, exact same match types, put it into a new headline search campaign, and then test the ad copy, and you can run both. So when it comes to ad copy, the algorithm, without question, sees those as unique variations. So there's no harm in testing both. It will rotate and pick the one it likes best, and it will pick the one that most likely performs best. So you can do both, and then you could phase out the other one as the new one gains traction.
Right. With headline search, there is an option to switch on or off the automated bidding to show placements below top of search. Would you switch it on or switch it off?
I don't use any automated bidding in any of my accounts and never have. Even when Google opened up so much of that automated CPA, automated bid, I don't. I like to manually do my numbers. So no, I would not. I'd have it all off.
Okay, next question here. Says, I'm in the shoes category. If I add a new style to the same type of shoe, would you add the new style as a child variation ASIN to the existing model under the same ad campaign? Is this similar in the jeans category?
It is. If you've already got a really killer variation, right? It's all within the same parent ASIN. So you go parent, child, and then they can self-select the style they like. You could add an ad group for that style with style-specific keywords. The style, for example, so I'm running my Levi's. I've got my I've got, this skinny, right? And the skinny jean is converting great. My best sellers being advertised on all my skinny jean keywords. But now from my search term report and also from my keyword research, I'm saying, people search for distressed, and people search for black, and people search for ripped, and people search for indigo. And so when I get those keywords, I could actually put my black skinny variation against the black keywords in its own ad group. And I could put my distressed version against the distressed in their own ad group. And the only time you need to do that in their own campaigns is when the search volume is so epically big that it's its own universe, it's its own product, which means all keywords are unique. Going back to ground coffee versus whole bean coffee, that's always going to be unique. They're completely different products, even though they're all related to coffee, and they're huge volume products. So they need to have their own campaigns.
Okay. Fanor's question here is, does it make any sense to change the ad copy in the headline search ads when having many headline ads for the same ASIN, but using different seed keywords?
Well, there's two ways to go with ad copy, and you'll want to test. And I uploaded a resource from Ogilvy on writing ad copy that sells, one of my favorite writing resources of all time for copy. It's very dog-eared here in my office. So if you're talking about ad copy, there's two ways an ad's going to work, and only two ways, luckily. So your first is going to be that the control ad copy is the most sales-driven ad copy you have. Like no matter what you test it against, the promise or the hook in that headline will win on all keywords. That's definitely the case with particular products. Other products that are far more dependent on variation. So let's go here. Okay, so say it's a product that is, let's say it's a product with a lot of caffeine. Obviously, the control creative is that it's highly caffeinated, right? It's highly caffeinated, it's strong. So that ad copy is going to really work against all products for that particular variation, because it's like the hook. People want that strong coffee, and they're going to click on it no matter what you do. Now, in that ad copy, if I'm advertising a bean, I'm going to include the word bean. If I'm advertising ground, I'm going to include the word ground, right? So those single keywords are important, but I'm going to put it within my control copy about strength and, caffeine level and just punch, right? So that's kind of one way to go. And then if you have something like towels, it's the same story. Essentially, you got towels, and you're going to have, there's going to be one hook. You know what I mean? It's the softest, it's the plushest, it's the most organic, natural, baby scented towel you've ever seen, and it's going to convert on that hook. But if you have a blue towel or a purple towel, those keywords need to be present, the single modifiers, to really get them to convert, and then the image should match. So it has a lot to do with how people search for the product when you do ads, and it's either going to go one way or the other. The keywords, the variations are either really crucial, like color, or it's the hook that's more crucial, like, this is highly caffeinated and strong. So every product's different. And the more technical your product is, the more important your keyword variations are. And the more kind of unique USP branded your product is, the more hook is important, So it has to do, you'll test different ad copies, but always be focused on both. Where can I use keywords? But never, ever let keyword usage dilute the hook. Because at the end of the day, someone may want a blue towel, but they want that thing to be super soft, organic, and natural, right? So never let the hooks be kind of overrode by keyword usage, because keywords are just data, and it's the hook that sells it. So that Ogilvy document is the best thing you'll ever read for ad copy that sells. It is tried and true. Again, very dog-eared. I am thrilled whenever I could dust off that PDF and take a whirl and write some headlines.
All right. Daryl's got the next question here. Daryl's asking, do you ever put your one-hit wonders, the ones with one sale only, and your no-hit wonders with no sales as negative exact match?
Nope, I don't do that. I'm not a big negative exact person. I would just use a single phrase match on those. But you can test. It's the beautiful thing about advertising. You always get data. So you can test that as a strategy, and the metric you have to watch for is filtering. So why don't I use aggressive negatives? Because it is a known fact with algorithms that too many negatives filter your ad all over the place. So when you put a lot of negatives in, the algorithm is like, doesn't go here, doesn't go here, doesn't go here. And if it's already too filtered, it doesn't go anywhere. So the main thing you want to be thinking about is total guaranteed algorithms will filter. If there's too many negatives, it will filter your impressions. But you can test it and then measure impressions. Anytime you're doing a negative strategy, the metric to measure is impressions. Did they go up or down after the change? And you could almost be sure that it's a result of the negatives.
Okay, Lyle's asking, is it a good idea to create a headline search ad campaign as soon as I have one keyword that has 5 or 10 plus sales? Or should I wait until I have multiple keywords that are performing?
No, it's not too early to do that. It's not too early at all. And if it's one of your primary sales drivers, I don't know where your other ratios are. Like if you have other keywords that produce 100 sales and you're just at 10 for these, then it's not really there yet. You want to wait till it tips over to a pretty good place. And then the other key metric on headline search is where's the target ACoS on those keywords. You're going to need to have at least 5 points wiggle room to make the headline ad work in most situations. If you're totally at target ACoS or slightly above it, headline's going to be very challenging. So if the ACoS is promising and it's a really relevant keyword and it's driving sales with a good margin there, then I would go ahead and test it. There's no harm in testing it.
All right, Dreamfish has a question here. I have some single ad groups that aren't making any impressions yet, even though the bids are higher than what they are for the same keyword in the buy ad group. They say, I'm scared to pause it because I'm scared to pause it in the buy ad group until I see it take off in a single ad group. Are you 100% sure that this will start working if I pause it in buy?
Well, you're only going to switch it back, right? There's no risk because you've got sales history on the keyword. Your sales history is forever. It's like a relationship. No one's forgotten you. The algorithm knows you and it knows your history. So it's like a relationship. They're not forgetting you. So if you pause it in buy, activate it in single, that's going to be the only way you know for sure what happens. You bid for rank in single. Don't forget that step. You go ahead and make sure you're ranked on the keyword. Give it at least 5 days to gain some, momentum. Give it a week to start showing you what it's going to do sales wise. 10 days, you could do all those things. And here's the complete rub. If for some reason it doesn't work, you pause all of that and you re-enable it exactly where it was before, and the history will pick right back up.
All right, Bamlet's got the next question here. It says, I found very relevant search terms during my STR review that were at reasonable ACoS, but they only have a single sale. Would it ever make sense to add these search terms as exact match in Shop so I can track if it actually gets additional future sales?
No, just wait till it gets more sales. It's in a good space now. It's already converting. Let it tip over before you start moving it.
Okay, Hatsfield would like to know, I'm not sure how many campaigns I should have.
You need a campaign for each product you're advertising.
Okay, let's see here. Next one. Dreamfish says, if I am selling a blue silicone spatula and my keyword blue silicone spatula exact match has a bad ACoS at 70%, should I pause it, even though it's the most perfect keyword I could ever think of?
How many sales is it driving at that high ACoS? I mean, if it's driving a ton of sales because it's super relevant, it should go into buy. If it's not driving a lot of sales, it could be the most beautiful keyword in the world, but pragmatically, it's not working. And it's like that in business too. Half the stuff we think of doesn't work. Do we all go through that? I mean, look at how bumpy it was when I started this class. I mean, everything we think in our mind versus what really happens is so magically different. So a keyword can look fantastic on paper, but when the data shows you it's not working, it's not working.
All right. Should we bid for rank on the top 20% of profitable ASINs only or on new products as well?
New products, you need a lot of reviews. Don't try to bid for rank with a product without a lot of reviews and good reviews. I mean, the kind of reviews that make a shopper click the add to cart button. You can't have some generic, 5 reviews. You won't be able to compete against the established products in advertising. And you can only win in advertising if you outsell these competitors, right? So you're far better investment wise to get the product page. When I mean page, I mean reviews, which is 70% of our conversion. Get that really locked and loaded before you put ad money behind it, because you're going to get cruddy sales history if you don't. And then that sales history is so hard to reverse. It's far better to get the reviews built, get the listing built, get the organic rank built a little bit before you go put money on that product.
All right. Hotsfield would like to know, is phase 2 a separate campaign with multiple ad groups, buy, sale, single phrase, or buy, scale, single phrase, and single phrase?
Yeah. Phase 2 is simply what you do with a search term report. So phase 1 is assuming you've got no data. Phase 1 means you've never advertised before. The product has a bit of history. It's doing well on reviews. You're ready to get some more velocity, right? You want to pick up you want to pick up that flywheel that Amazon needs to rank stuff. So you're trying to get the flywheel in action. You're going to take this product, you're going to advertise it to get that velocity, to get that history, to start moving and shaking, right? So assuming that is the goal, and you have no ad history, you've never done advertising with this product, then you would start in that phase 1, right? And then you need 30 days to get the STR, search term report with accurate data, to go ahead and start to mine out everything that's proven to work. And again, what you think is going to work isn't what's going to work. And then things that you didn't think would work will surprisingly work. So the STR is where you start to actually put things in proven groups, right? This is scale. This sells for me. This is buy. This loses me money. This is a single because it's going to drive 80% of my orders. And then with that, yeah, so definitely, Melissa, make sure that in our in that process map, I know we've got the different phases, but be sure that we kind of differentiate that detail about whether you have. That's the only difference between phase 1 and 2 is, do you have data? If you have data, the first place you go is the STR.
Okay, and Carlos is asking, how many reviews are enough?
Enough to persuade a buyer. Read those reviews and say, is this persuasive? Because it's all about selling, right? The ads don't sell anything. The ads bring you the targeted shoppers. The ads sell nothing. The ads, when you position in the search results and on the product pages, and the ads get you that visibility, and the ads position your product. You know what I mean? It positions it on the keywords you want to be on, but the advertising itself does not do any sales with the exception of a good hook and a headline. But even then, all that sells stuff are product pages. So product pages are all that sells. Ads just bring the visitors to the pages at scale. So without question, it needs to be persuasive. You need to be looking at those reviews. They need to be good. They need to be positive. They need to be exciting. They need to be good, high quality reviews that would persuade a shopper to pick your product over a competitor.
Okay.
I would say no less than 5, but it's not the number of reviews that matter as much as the quality. You could have, 3 like superstar reviews, and that's going to persuade a shopper. You could have 15 really lukewarm 1-sentence reviews, and that's not going to do anything on sales. And you will most likely lose that sale to a product page that has more like robust reviews.
All right. Terrence says, you mentioned that your strategy was only for the top 20% of profitable ASINs. What PPC strategy do you suggest for the other 80% of ASINs that are still profitable but not high velocity?
If they're profitable and you can advertise them for history, I would suggest doing that. The main thing in my experience is not just my strategy. In my experience, advertising historically is designed just to get eyeballs on the product. It is not a sales tool. The product page has to sell, the product has to sell, the market has to sell, the competitive landscape has to be strong. So when you're doing those things, the thing that's so important to remember with advertising, it's designed to make a good selling product sell more. It won't do anything with a poorly selling product. It just gets it in front of more people and they have the same response rate. So if you get a lot of clicks and people don't buy, you're just going to pay for those clicks and they're still not going to buy. So when you drive more views to a page that isn't that hot, then at the end of the day, all it does is cost you money to find out it's not hot. So anything that's not working normally organically, anything that's not popular with the algorithm, anything, you can test it in advertising, but just know that it won't sell it any better, but it could get you some sales history. So if you have product variations that you need history on, if you can get those to be a break-even ACoS, no problem, do it, because it'll get you some sales history. It'll build the keyword relevance. There's no question on Amazon, any traffic's better than no traffic. But if you're looking at a product that is struggling organically, or a product that has a lower conversion rate historically, advertising is just going to magnify that problem, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to see it. Melissa? It is impossible. We're on Hangout, so she can't be anywhere.
I hit mute on accident. Sorry.
I was like, wait a minute. Like, this is like technical chaos. Like, how would Hangouts have crashed on you? Okay.
I looked at it. I was like, I was talking. I apologize. I was talking. Nobody can hear me.
No. I was like, oh man, this technical stuff. It's like a dark cloud. I feel like the little character on the Peanuts, where like the little dark cloud, like Eeyore, like on Winnie the Pooh, where little dark clouds just following me around. I'm like, what's going on with this technical stuff?
Anyway, okay, so let's see here. All right, what do you do if you have an auto campaign that is out of control? The ACoS is 80% or 100%. I've already added a bunch of negatives and reduced the bid to 97 cents. Should I just turn it off?
Yeah, just turn it off. I don't think that auto works for every product. I have yet to see any like consistent data that auto is a win on everything. I find it's either hit or miss. And the only things that I've ever been able to use to get auto working are negatives and reduced bids.
All right.
There's not much more. There's not much more levers you could pull in that. You know what I mean? There's no control over the targeting. And at the end of the day, outside of product placement, your autos are not nearly as advantageous as manual anyway. 80% of your sales will come out of search. You want to get on those product pages, but you could do it through competitor keyword targeting.
Carolina said, Melissa, don't scare us. I'm so sorry, guys.
Right? We get scared in this class. When things crash, we get really scared.
We do. All right. So next question here. If you're creating a new campaign for a silicone spatula product, do you add keyword for plurals, or do you just trust Amazon to target the plurals? The example is, would you add silicone spatula and silicone spatulas, or just the singular version and trust that Amazon would give you the plurals as well?
And you could trust it. I mean, in the data, you could trust it. That algorithm wants to sell and match stuff up. So I have never in any product category had trouble with like singles matching plurals and vice versa. But the only time I would add both is if the search term report showed me like a huge amount of sales on the other variation. So it's like every time I get the search term report, I got plural. Every time I got plural. I'd add the plural just to make sure I'm catching both. Plural is exact match. But only when the search term report is like mega showing it. Otherwise, when I'm just testing, I go with the single or plural, depending on which one has the highest search volume in a really trusted tool that has actual Amazon data.
You guys with your lizard brain comments are making me laugh, and I'm really trying hard to not laugh right into my microphone, but it's awesome.
You guys, I have my own places. Advertising I've been doing 15 years. So my lizard brain is quelled. I like beat it down with a big club. And after 15 years, I've beat it down. My lizard brain doesn't even show up to the fight anymore. But there's other places in my life where my lizard brain shows up a lot, right? We all have them. And I'm just like, oh, there it is, But advertising, I've done beat my lizard brain with a club.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so next question is from Rob. Can you please clarify, based on what you said about title copy, you would use strong keywords and USP and then just pop other keywords into the back end rather than use USP to keyword, especially where the character limit has been dropped to 50?
Keyword character. Okay, go one more time.
Yep. It says, based on what you said on title copy, you would use strong keywords plus USP and then just pop other keywords into the back end rather than lose USP to keywords, especially if the character limit is dropped to 50.
You just want to make sure the keywords that you're going to rely on most for sales are prominent and visible, because those keywords you're going to pay for all those clicks, and it's highly more likely. I mean, I would say 90% more likely that keywords visible in the title will encourage your CTR rate somewhat. Now, of course, product images are a big part of shopping, so your images are really key. Your reviews are essential for conversion. Those are like Amazon specific stuff, images and reviews. But anytime in paid advertising, pay per click advertising, having the keyword visible in the ad copy, or in this case, the title, is going to boost your click-through rate, which will lower your cost per click and make you more competitive.
Okay, get the rest of these in here. Laugh out loud so we can laugh out loud too.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're laughing at you about that. And just so you know, I think Seth Godin was the one that taught me about the lizard brain. And I know that it definitely applies to ads, but I think Seth Godin, I have to give a shout out there. I think that was where I learned about the lizard brain.
Okay. Some of my products had 2 to 3 auto campaigns, so I kept the best performing one and paused all the others. Was that correct? Or should I have put a lower bid and then paused once it stops performing? And would I also do that with the manual campaigns?
Well, with your manual, you want to make that keyword history really strong, right? So your new campaign structure with the manual should win for you long term, and I would use it. In the auto campaigns, there's no harm. I mean, if you're getting exposure across 3 autos and they're all lower than your target A cost and there's no risk in it, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's no harm, no, what does that be? Like, no foul, like, go for it. In manual, you want to really get those keywords, because you don't want Amazon selecting like a keyword in a group that's not as strong in terms of bid or relevance. It can be, and you want to win on those CPCs. But with auto, it's a low bid. It's all about other placements across, the Amazon ecosystem. If you get multiple autos working, let them run. I don't think they'll cannibalize each other, but you may want to test and shut a couple down and see if one picks up more steam that has the most sales history. But I doubt there's any harm in running multiple autos.
All right. This one says, let's say I have a dud product that I'm just trying to run out of inventory on. I have 400 units left and it's selling about 2 products a day. It has a 4.1 star review and I just want to get rid of all of them. How would you recommend using PPC to help me get rid of this, losing the least amount of money possible?
There's not. Every category on Amazon is so competitive. I mean, it is the most competitive game in retail history. So you're in the most competitive game in retail history, where the stakes are the highest they've ever been in terms of sales volume, and it's massive, right? Like, talk about Robin saves, Robin trains. So with those 2 elements in play, let's go, there's 3 elements in play with Amazon. One, the barrier to entry is absolutely fairly simplistic. Some businesses have crazy barriers to entry, right? So like, you're trying to get into it and you got to have like a manufacturing facility and you got to have some kind of crazy power. At that point, it's tricky and people don't get into it. Like, people that make cars, you know what I mean? Like, they don't go do that because it's expensive. But you have Amazon, which has a very low barrier to entry, which means people can hop in there and just put products on and start to rock and roll. Then you have the fact that it's got more momentum in terms of retail than anything in history, sales wise, and retail's like an enormous category. And then you've got competitors, right? So you've got these like different variables that make it really hot. So it's expensive and it's competitive. So you're not going to have any category where someone's not going to compete with you for the bid, compete with you for the position. So when you have a product that isn't moving in advertising, in my experience, you're going to waste a lot of money. You can test it very, very like gingerly, because in my experience, products that are sitting on that shelf, there's a reason for it. And in my experience, it's a fast way to lose money. You'd have to moderate it and monitor it really close. But normally that's, you can move inventory other ways. And I don't think advertising is the solution. I think if you want to move inventory, you need to liquidate. You need to look at all the other channels for Amazon sellers, probably go back to Amazing and their resources and see what they have. But you're going to liquidate. And liquidation, let me give you some tips from seeing it with my best clients. If you're going to liquidate, you want to spend the least money possible liquidating, because there's all these other factors and fees that come in. So, you don't want to add money up against that liquidation. You don't want to add money up against the storage fees. It's just going to be kind of not fun. So in my experience, you should just liquidate, cut your losses, and get out of there. Or let it go at 2 sales a day. If it's not costing you a lot of storage fee, let it go at 2 sales a day till it's gone.
The next question is from Christine, and she'd asked this before, but she missed the answer for it, not in this class, but in a previous one. Is the STR available for lifetime, or is it only available for 60 days?
60 days.
Okay,
If you
there
really
is
want
not.
to see your keywords lifetime, you've got to go into the campaign manager, set a lifetime view. Inside a single ad group, you can download keywords.
Okay, but it's not through the STR where you'd normally find it, correct?
No, it's not in the STR at all. It's in the campaign manager. It's a live report you download. There's no report that'll take you back more than 60 days.
Perfect. And should you have at least an auto campaign set up for a new product?
No. I mean, if you can get it to come in below your target ACOS and you test it very slowly with a low bid, see what happens. But I can tell you from my experience, again, with a lot of advertising on Amazon, products without reviews rarely get any traction. So you'd have to have some kind of anomaly of a market. There's no sales, the auto campaign will get you some sales history, but no keyword history. So in terms of investment, I don't know that the auto is the best investment to make before manual, because you get no history, you get no keyword history, which is what you need to rank. So I'd be less interested in that. But you can test it. Just make sure it's really below your target ACOS. Watch it like a hawk, because it's unlikely that a new product is going to work so well with the ads.
Okay, and Dreamfish, you might have to clarify this one. It's a short question, but I'm just not 100% sure what the basis of it is. It starts with, do you remember stuff that the STR showed you last month? I'm afraid with 20 plus products that wouldn't be possible. I'm not sure how you keep up with this.
Well, I'm looking at the current STR and I'm looking at my current metrics, and I'm not keeping up with that. I keep every STR historically, but I'm not concerned with what was happening in the last STR. First of all, remember that your STR is really a temperature. It's the main benefit of the STR is that it allows you to discover new keyword variations that are less competitive, because you've structured your campaigns with broad and phrase match to mine them. So the STR is about the new keyword discovery. You can get a lot of other information out of that. There's a lot of other details you can kind of see in the STR. It gives you insights into how the shopper buys, which won't change a lot, just so you know. The shopper will buy the same mostly over time. But the main gold in the STR are those new variations. If you are mining those variations every 30 days, there's no harm in trying to add a duplicate. There's no harm in anything. If you put the last STR's new keywords into the groups and you've reorganized accordingly, things are in singles, things are, bid for rank. Your new round of good keywords is just a new round of good keywords, and your only job is to add those and then kind of look at the overall performance.
How do you prepare for Black Friday? Is this a topic that we're going to discuss?
You prepare now. You just get ranked. You get ranked and you get everything going, and you don't change anything, and you up your budget. Up your budget like 5x, 10x.
Okay. And Dreamfish is just clarifying that last question. I just meant because Cherie refers back to how if you see a keyword each month show up over and over again each month, she would then consider adding it.
Oh, I'm just saying that, yeah. So I would just disregard, like if I had a plural show up with like 3 orders, it wouldn't be enough for me to move it. But if I didn't move the plural, but it continues to gain velocity, and the next month it has 20 orders, 30 orders, 40 orders, a plural. That was just a plural variation. It keeps showing up. If I see that, it needs to be added as a standalone keyword. But what I'm saying is I need to see it over and over with a lot of orders, right? Gaining orders over time. I'm not going to see one plural variation show up with 3 orders and automatically go mine it if I have the single variation bringing me that search term.
That's it, Cherie. We're out of questions.
We did it, you guys. Yeah. So Dreamfish, that was in direct relation to the question about singles and plurals.
Right. That's it. Yeah, I don't have anything else coming through here.
Oh my gosh, good stuff, you guys. All right, so everybody have an amazing weekend. It's Thursday. Woohoo! Have a great weekend, and we will start our campaign optimization series next week, and it's going to be Act 3, which is all about feared and deadly, right? The way to become feared and deadly is to take all these positions in the search results, all these positions on the product pages through optimization, so that your competitors know that you mean business and it's your category. We're going to work on that. I have all of your, excuse me, I'm getting some water. I have all of your sample campaigns. I'm going through those. I'm on my final round of what's going to be what. And I'm going to be sure to get you guys answers on those today. And then we'll know what we're moving forward with. So you'll get, we are using your campaign as a sample, you're going to get an answer no matter what. But if we are using your campaign as a sample, be prepared because we're going to send you an email asking for some different assets like reports and different things that we can use in class. And that will be all. Until next time.